The next set in the Pokemon trading card game is Pokemon 151, but are any of the cards actually good? Hey, Nick from 9CardTCG, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 cards, or what I think the top 10 cards from Pokemon 151 are going to be. These are cards that if you're not going to buy yourself, you should at least know what they are because you're likely to see them. There are some really cool cards in the set, like Butterfree and Weezing. Even though they're not on today's list, I still think they're fun cards and worth your attention. All of the images and translations that we use in today's video are from justinbasil.com, so please go check it out. It's a wonderful site. He's a good friend of the channel. Link to it in the video description. And if you're in the mood to click stuff, you can go ahead and click subscribe and leave a comment and a like on this channel because it tells YouTube this is a good channel. Other people should watch it. I have a personal goal. I'm trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and you can help me achieve that goal because most people really aren't subscribed to the channel. And if we do reach that goal, there's going to be a really cool giveaway at the end of the year. So why not, right? Now, with all that said, let's go ahead, go to justinbasil.com and start checking out some of these cards. We're going to start with the trainer cards. Safety Goggles, it's a tool card. The basic Pokemon this card is attached to has no weakness. It's kind of cool because you might have a basic EX, maybe like you're playing a Miraidon deck or you're playing a Ting-Lu and there's a lot of whatever. You can just go ahead and slap this onto your basic Pokemon and it now has no weakness. It does not specifically say that the basic non-rule box Pokemon that this is attached to has no weakness. It just has to be any basic Pokemon. So like I said, things like Miraidon, things like Ting-Lu, things like Chien-Pao, they don't have any weakness. Even though the big issue with something like this is most of those Pokemon have I think all of them have 230 HP or less, and that's kind of easy to one-shot in the current format. So how useful this will be, I'm not really sure. But if there was a card that was just getting hammered by weakness, we can go ahead and slap Safety Goggles onto it as long as it's a basic, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore. Next, we have the Big Balloon Trainer card. It's also another tool. The Stage 2 Pokemon this card is attached to has no retreat cost. Again, not something I expect to see a ton of play, but I do think it's interesting at the very least. It allows for maybe some big Tyranitar EX that has a retreat cost of 3 or 4. Now you just slap this big balloon and you get a retreat for free, which makes cycling with Cheryl a little bit easier. And that's something that's kind of cool. It just gives a little bit more freedom to deck build, a little bit more freedom to utilize certain cards. I think like Golem has a 3 or 4 retreat cost, like Golem EX. So it's kind of cool. So again, similar to Safety Goggles, I don't see it being used widely, but I do think it's a really cool card and one that, depending on the deck you're playing, it might be really beneficial. Next is the first and only supporter we're going to talk about in today's video, Erika's Invitation. Your opponent reveals their hand, put a basic Pokemon you find there on their bench, then switch it to the active spot, which is really cool. If, let's pretend the previous turn your opponent goes, I'm going to Ultra Ball and I'm going to get a Lumineon, and then they just hold it because you know they're going to search for Iono or they're going to search for Boss next turn to just win the game. Well, now you can go, okay, fine. You got that Lumineon in hand, no problem. I'm going to play Erika's Invitation and going to slap that thing down onto the bench. Now, not only does it come into the active, but because it happened during your turn, your opponent doesn't get to use the ability to go search for that supporter. So now you get to bring it. You deny the effect, right? You deny the ability. It comes into the active, and because things like Lumineon and Squawkabilly, these other 2 prize support Pokemon, have 180 or less HP, they're really easy to KO. So you not only can you deny that ability, but there's a good chance that you're going to get 2 very easy and free prizes, which might just win you the game. Your opponent has like a big Gardevoir EX in play, and you're like, well, I can't knock out this Gardevoir EX with a Lugia, but I can knock out a Lumineon. Too bad they don't have one in play. Oh wait, I bet they have one in hand. And then you play Erika's Invitation, slap that Lumineon down. It comes into the active because it's a pseudo boss's orders. And then you just KO it with the Lugia, no problem. It's easy. Arceus with a DTE can knock a Lumineon out in one hit. This is actually kind of cool. I'm a little excited for this card. I'm a little scared because I do play Lugia, and sometimes you have that Lumineon in hand. I go, oh, I'm gonna save this for next turn, and then Erika's Invitation comes and like, well, I guess I die now. I guess I just lose. So really cool. I'm excited for this one. Of course, we have to talk about Cycling Road. I think it's the only stadium in the entire set. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a basic energy card from their hand. If they do, they draw a card. That means if you discard 2 energies from your hand, for example, one with Cycling Road and one with Radiant Greninja, you're drawing 3 cards. That's not nothing. It also allows you to kind of use Radiant Greninja, get a free draw card. You get to go ahead and put an energy in the discard. That's really cool for things like Gardevoir. Lugia sometimes has a bunch of extra energies and you just need to be able to draw an extra card. It's only 1 card, but sometimes that's all you need. I don't think this is going to be the big top new stadium that every single one's playing, but it's still pretty cool. And for decks that want to get rid of energies, Tinglu wants to get rid of energy pretty early, Gardevoir wants to get rid of energy, Arceus can get rid of an energy or 2. Like there's some decks that can really utilize just discard an energy, draw a free card, and it's never a bad thing. It's something that at the very least, I think we should talk about. Moving on to Pokemon, we have Ditto with the Change Start ability. We can only use this ability if this Pokemon is in the active spot and on the very first turn of the game. However, if we do use the ability, you can go ahead and search your deck for any basic Pokemon you want and replace it with this Ditto. So you discard the Ditto and all cards attached to it, and the Pokemon you search for is now in the active. This is, oh my god, this is so cool for decks that are just like, I just need an Arceus turn 1. I just need Lugia turn 1. You could slap a 1-off Ditto in there, and it gives you a 5th out to a Pokemon V. In addition to your Nest Balls, your Ultra Balls, things like that. Even if you don't start it's just an extra out, right? That extra opportunity to find that Pokemon that you need to start the game. You have a Comfey in hand and you have a Ditto, you could start the Ditto and turn that into a second Comfey, right? You have, like I said, Lumineon and Ditto in hand, you slap that Ditto in the active, and now it becomes whatever basic Pokemon you want. It could be, it's really cool, and I actually really like this Pokemon. It's something that just added consistency for some decks that might need it. It might feel bad later to draw it. Your opponent Ionters you down to 1 or 2, and the Ditto is the card to draw. That kind of stinks, but you know what? It might be worth it, in my opinion, if it means you get to even get down to 1 or 2 prizes, because the Ditto allows you to play the game other times. So definitely something that I would at least get a 1 or 2 of, something like that. We finally have a card that's actually been revealed and shown in English, so no translation necessary. We have Pidgey with the Call for Family, a single colorless energy attack. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. For decks that already run the Pidgeot line, this is amazing, because it means if you start your Pidgey and nothing else, you don't just lose the game. You can go ahead, attach an energy, Call for Family, get 2 Charmanders, get 2 whatever Pokemon you're running that has that's in that deck. And it doesn't specifically say non-rule box Pokemon, right? So we can go ahead and you're running Chien-Pao with Pidgeot for some reason. Well, if you start the Pidgey, you attach the energy, you can go ahead and get a Chien-Pao and a Frigibax, and you're like, all right, this actually wasn't a bad turn after all. Something that could have been disastrous is now circumvented. You're able to get yourself back into the game a little bit, and I think cards like this are really cool. Sure, the Pidgey's probably going to get KO'd, but you know what? At least you give yourself a chance. It's better to give up the 1 prize and continue to play than, all right, they just knocked out my Pidgey and I guess I lose. So I really like this card. I think we of course have to talk about some Pokemon EX, and that's going to be Blastoise EX. It has a big 330 HP. Solid. You take 30 less damage from your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. This is kind of cool. That means you have to do, in order to one-shot this, you have to do 360, but if you want to 2-shot it, you still have to do 200, because of the Solid Shell takes away 70. Now you're doing, it takes away 30, so you're doing 170, and 170 is 340. So you have to do minimum 200 damage to 2-shot this thing. Otherwise, you're taking a 3-shot, and that doesn't include other things like Lake Acuity, Radiant Gardevoir, or something, Radiant Serena that might heal. Like, there are ways to keep this Blastoise in play, which is pretty cool. We also have a pretty good attack for just 2 water energies. We do 140 damage times the number of energies we discard from our hand. We can only discard a maximum of 2, but we don't discard them from the Pokemon, which is kind of cool. We keep them attached to the Blastoise, and energies get discarded from our hand, which means anything like a superior energy retrieval, regular energy retrieval, a Clara, something that gets energies from our discard back into our hand, allows us to hit for up to 280 damage with Blastoise EX every single turn. That means you have 2 energies in your hand, discard them, Twin Cannons, 280. Then the next turn, discard 2 energies, Twin Cannon, 280. Now you superior energy retrieval, get all 4 energies back into your hand, and you can just keep going. It's really, really cool. It works super well with something like Chien-Pao, which Chien-Pao, when it's in the active, lets you search a deck for up to 2 basic water energies, put them into your hand. Is it too much to squeeze in Chien-Pao, Baxcalibur, and Blastoise? I don't know. You're already running Iridas, you're already running those kind of things. Maybe. Right? 1-1 Arceus, 2-2 Blastoise, 3 Chien-Paos, 2-2 Baxcalibur, or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's something, right? I don't know. It's a cool card. Again, will it be a top tier meta deck? I don't know, but worth talking about. A really cool card is Dodrio. Zooming draw. Once during your turn, you may put a damage counter on this Pokemon if you do draw a card. This works super well with the Tyranitar from Obsidian Flames that does more damage if any of your bench Pokemon have damage counters on them. So now you get a Pokemon with damage counters on the bench, so you do more damage, and you also get to draw a card. And if you have 4 Dodrios in play, each one of them can put 1 damage counter on, and now you just drew 4 cards, and that's really, really cool. That consistency is nice, and I think it's going to give Tyranitar a little bit of a buff, especially when you're seeing more water types come into play. Lugia's always present. Hitting for lightning weakness is not a bad thing, so, that's kind of cool. What kind of tier list would we be making, or I guess, how could we talk about the set without talking about Charizard EX? Obsidian Flames Charizard, the Dark-type Charizard, is good. I don't think it's the mind-blowing, oh my god, how are we going to deal with this card that some people might have thought it was going to be, but it's still a really good card. It's still doing well, whether you're playing the Arceus version with Pidgeot or you're playing the Lost Zone version. But now, one of the issues with the Obsidian Flames Charizard is that it only hits for 180 in the very early stages of the game, and you have to allow your opponent to take prize cards in order for that Charizard to start really racking up damage. So in the Arceus Charizard version, both Arceus with the DTE and Charizard EX only hit for 180, but now we're going to get this Charizard EX, the Fire-type Charizard EX, which has 2 things going for it. One, it counters all of the grass types that are trying to exploit Obsidian Flames Charizard grass-type weakness, because now you're going to hit those for weakness. And you can power this thing up to do massive damage, 330 damage in a single hit, because Obsidian Flames Charizard will let you get 3 energies from your deck and attach them to your Pokemon. So if we evolve into this Charizard EX, evolve into the Obsidian Flames Charizard, now we go ahead, attach 3 energies from the deck to this Charizard, and then just attach for turn, and now we're using Explosive Vortex for incredible damage. Plus, Brave Wing, for just a single fire, hits for 120 on grass Pokemon, things that are going to be fire weak, and if it has any damage counters, you're doing an extra 100. So 160 is not bad, and onto a Stage 2 EX grass type, if you have damage counters, now you're hitting for 320, because 160 times 2 is 320. That's pretty good, and on top of all of that, you are evolving from the same Charizard or Charmander line as the Terra Dark Charizard from Obsidian Flames. So there's so much going for it. You have way more damage output. You attack the Dark type weakness, which is grass, for weakness because this is fire, and you don't have to really sacrifice any consistency. You could throw one of these in your Arceus Charizard deck because you evolve from the same Charmander Charmeleon line as the Obsidian Flames EX. So now you have these branching, divergent evolution, and you never know which one your opponent is going to play. Like, oh my god, are they going to come out of nowhere and slap me with the Explosive Vortex? Are they going to just play it safer and go Burning Darkness or whatever the other attack is? Like, I have no idea. It's always something to worry about. You throw that big Urshifu VMAX into play to one-shot a Charizard EX, but now they previously couldn't one-shot you, but now they can, and that's really scary. before we get to the best card in the set, or at least what I think is probably going to be the best or most played card in the set, we have to give an honorable mention to Charmander from Pokemon 151. Single retreat cost 70 HP, which means you're not able to, your board's not going to crumble to a Sableye, right? Sableye going 60-60 on the current Charmanders is something that could happen in like a Turbo Lost Zone deck. But now with the 70 HP Charmanders, they're only going to be able to KO one of your Charmanders, so at least you have one remaining, which is kind of cool. You do still have to worry about Radiant Greninja coming in, Moonlight Shuriken to Charmanders, that's always the thing, but Manaphy can protect against that. So the 70 HP Charmanders will make Charizard decks, in addition to the Charizard decks we just talked about, that much better. So you're probably going to see quite a bit more Charizard when Pokemon 151 releases.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me.
The best card in the set is unsurprisingly Mew EX. It's a basic 180 health Pokemon. Still has no retreat. I don't know why they keep doing this. Weak to Dark. Okay, Dark's pretty popular. Has the ability to restart once during a turn. You may draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand. Okay, it's not Genesect, but you can technically do this more than once if you have multiple Mew EXs in play. So we can go ahead and slap down a Mew EX, Ultra Ball all of our cards away, draw until we have 3, and then we can, like, whatever, right? We can just keep repeating that process. For 3 colorless energies, Genome Hacking, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Now, at least, creatures gave this a 3 energy attack cost. Thank God, right? Because if we was able to just attach a double turbo energy and then use Explosive Vortex for a single DTE, and now all of a sudden we're just hitting 310 into another Charizard, like, are you kidding me? That would be absurd. That would be insane. So the Genius is a creature gave this, because Creatures Inc. is who designs Pokemon cards. They gave this 3 energy attack cost, but you could still very easily power this up with Chien-Pao. You could very easily power this up with something like, I don't know, what else powers things up off the top of my head. I'm blank. Lugia. Those are the 2 big ones. Baxcalibur and Lugia can, or I guess technically Baxcalibur, Archeops, can very easily power up a Mew EX, so you can just kind of slap this thing in. You can Raihan, attach a DTE, in decks that run DTE, and now you're still using it. Like, there are ways to power this thing up in a single turn, but at least it requires a little bit more than just simply attaching DTE and going. You're also copying your opponent's attack as opposed to copying one attack on your bench, which I think is a little bit better, because if your opponent only has like Comfeys on the field, or they only have a Comfey and like a Cramorant or something, then you're restricted to the active. So if your opponent's like, all right, I got my Giratina V-Star, but it's on the bench, so you can't copy Lost Impact, you're copying whatever Comfey's attack is for like 10 damage. So that, it makes it a little bit more balanced instead of just picking any one of your Pokemon on the bench. Now you have to choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. I think that's a little bit better, but you could still always, Mew EX, somehow power this thing up with Lugia, and then I'm going to Boss's Orders your opponent, your Giratina V-Star, and then hit with the Lost Impact for 280 KO. And it's like, okay, I guess that's just 2 free prizes, and now I lost my Giratina and whatever energies might have been attached to it. So, like, I can see this being a force in Lugia, especially. I can see this being so useful in Lugia, especially in a deck like Lugia, where you want to discard your hand with Ultra Ball to get those Archeops into the discard, and like, well, now I have no cards in hand, or I only have an Ultra Ball. I don't have anything to discard to go get a Lugia V-Star. Now I can restart, draw 2 cards, and then discard those 2 if I don't just find the Lugia V-Star, and now go ahead, Ultra Ball, do my thing. So, probably going to see the most play in something like Lugia. You can easily slap this in something like a Gardevoir EX. That's the other one I was thinking of. Gardevoir EX just lets you attach energies to your Psychic Pokemon in any way you want from the discard. So, like... Chien-Pao can, Baxcalibur can power this thing up, Gardevoir can power this thing up, Lugia or Archeops can power this thing up. Raihan DTE can power this thing up. That's 4 off the top of my head, and I'm really not even trying that hard to think of ways to power this up. But again, I stand by what I said. I'm very happy it has 3. I would have loved a retreat cost of 1, just so it doesn't have free pivot for whatever reason, but hey, as a Lugia main, maybe I'll take it. And there you go, the top 10 cards plus an honorable mention from the Pokemon 151 set. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. I told you what that does before. It helps me reach my goal of 5,000 subs by the end of the year, and then we can do a cool giveaway. Let me know what you think of Pokemon 151. It's a card that I didn't talk about, something you're really looking forward to. Are you excited for the cards I did show off? So let me know your thoughts in the comments, but that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I want to give a special shout out to the YouTube members, Black Wins, Mike the Highest, Fernando Ortiz, Chin Pokemon, and Eric N. Thank you all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. And if you want to become a channel member, you can go ahead and click the channel member button somewhere at the bottom of the page. I'm not really sure. I haven't done it myself.